That's about as good as it gets. Thank you to Kleft Jaw. Thank you to Kleft Jaw for putting this together. Thank you for MJ. Thank you to Matthew and Carissa from Drunk Monkeys. Thank you to my wonderful girlfriend, Kara. Thank you to just everybody who's here tonight. And when I was assembling the poems for my first collection for Clouds of Hungry Dogs, I didn't know how to put this goddamn thing together. And then I came across the title poem, Clouds of Hungry Dogs, and the poem is about a guy who is very old and has really nothing left except these memories that may or may not have even happened, stories, ideas, just running so chaotically in his mind that he's just this old broken shell with all this stuff running around in his head. And I read that poem and I figured, well, that's got to be in the book. And then I realized that if I looked for poems under that concept, that I could start to find the poems that eventually made this book, Clouds of Hungry Dogs, which will be out January from Kleft Jaw Press. And I would like to read to you from the title poem, which is Clouds of Hungry Dogs. When the old man begins to talk, he goes on for hours and hours, and no one can understand a word he says. But it's different in his head, because that part of the world is still pulling the closed, gone home signs away from the doors, while the trumpets scream victory. Every word is a lightning bolt that grips the attention of a long desert where good men hide like tired, stray cats. It's as though every wise crack from above is a steel-toe boot on the glistening dance floor. He can see the 6-year-old counting the money he stole for a cab ride to Toronto. He can remember the prostitute with a heart of different orphaned birds getting together to take back the power lines and landfill monuments. Always so concerned with keeping both hands on her grandmother's wheelchair that she didn't care about her sunglasses being crooked every hour of the day. He tells everyone about her. Everyone in turn nods as best they can and wonders if he's worth filming. Does he remember the woman who laughed every time the baby came into the world stillborn and made a living in her twilight years by chewing apart unopened soup cans? Yeah, she's in there too. No one knows how much time this guy put into fearing a life worth the madman who gets to run on and on about it. Never married. Spent a lot of time losing things that weren't his to begin with. Started a novel in his teens, realized J.D. Salinger had stolen it from his dreams, and quietly put it in a drawer when he finished it during retirement. Did every single car on the GW Bridge really stop all at once? Did everyone really get out and trust the frozen water to break their fall? He says it did. He sees it as clearly as the son he never had, but often runs into, when his luck is so vivid that he loses his hands trying to touch the train it's riding. Newlyweds are always heading to the coast in his stories. Farmhouses are always falling to man-made nature instead. If someone even wanted to understand him, if someone even wanted to try to pretend they could, it might make a difference. It wouldn't make up for the life he didn't have, but it would do something. It would give his cast a chance to repeat or even break all of their messy, hopelessly unstable patterns. So once I started thinking in those terms, poems began to come together for me. This is my idea of comedy, and I think this is hilarious. So I'm setting the bar high for this one. This is resting on a flat universe. The way some people reacted to the unexpected appearance of that train station, you would think they were just finding out this town is resting on a flat universe. No one knows where it came from. No one on the city council is talking. No one wants to talk about the sobbing mess the mayor has become. If this were 1940, and only a few think it is, the train station would be a modern marvel. Anyway, public response remains divided. Drop by the laundromat, the script club, the haunted house, the Arnold Camp Memorial Literature Museum, the busted-ass traveling show, the McDonald's, or the ongoing football game, and you're going to find dwindling support for daily life. Those railroad tracks shine during the hotter days, but you can't really appreciate that without disturbing the bodies resting in the center or the tents that have sprung up all over the place. Rumors, arguments about when the schedule will start have become the kind of religion that distrusts more than 10 minutes of sleep a week. A bunch of others bought cars, stole cars, built borderline impossible motorcycles, begged for rides, and just took off for lost places with weird names. 6 small piles of salt are still there, 4 miles outside of town. Those who stayed are detached and irritable and making do. Valentine's Day isn't going to be the shock show it usually is. This is hands and feet. She doesn't remember the fire. She's just certain it happened a long time back and that it actually happened to someone else. Something completely separate is to blame. Mistakes were loved on the strength of their potential. So many that someone decided that it was high time she inherited a few extra precious miracles. Taken from people who stay in and suffer because they're afraid of what might come from a quiet walk down the friendly freeway. She doesn't recall how she got out of her house alive, but she feels like it was a long time ago, and that she just hasn't gone home to fix her hair or change her clothes yet, or make sure her dad is getting enough to eat. She passes by a pharmacy. The old guy who runs it is rich. Doesn't really mind that hardly anybody comes in anymore. Not for medicine, anyway. Wine is still pretty popular, and he promotes cockfights and bake-offs here and there. He spends his time writing detailed medical reports in red ink on all the people who come in or pass by. But he misses that girl entirely because he believes in being civil to whoever is robbing him on his lunch hour. A big bastard of a tree appeared on the pharmacy's roof overnight, and no one has ever really wanted to go near it since. Potentially sacred sites are not welcome in this town. Someone is going to spend their welfare check on a petition to have the goddamn thing removed. The pharmacist doesn't care. He's been at peace for a while. God is God, but he feels that money is a little bit easier to rebuild in faith. He gives both, almost. We're almost there. He gives both away when some writer with sizable poker debts at the library comes in with a shot-off shotgun he borrowed from his grandmother. The author's not going to get far. Those kids outside are parked in the middle of the street blocking traffic that's never coming. School is on the road now. Not everyone can afford the bus ticket, greasy diner food, and fraternity lawsuits. Some of those boys are going to have to stay home and drink warm beer until fight night consists of some strange pills and a couple of egg sandwiches from the breakfast truck. The writer doesn't need this because he's already just about fucking had it with people. He spent the whole weekend proposing to her and then spent 9 straight Mondays riding the metro for 9 hours for each of the 9 Mondays, all the way to his original family home. It's become an upright joint to get steak and vintage VHS tapes. And this happened about 5 years ago. He'll be okay. He's going to get out of that prison hospital and move to Glasgow. He's going to join the army and pretend he knew all along that it was actually a 10-year production of a really boring war movie. He can't afford to look stupid or surprised. The social anxiety edition of Snakes and Ladders is a lot cheaper than singing lessons. He can't afford to lose his head over every little thing. Hands and feet, they're still pretty easy to replace. So we're coming up on the last one, and the one thing that I realized about this one, which is one of my favorites, is if you consider the possibility that every poem in Clouds of Hungry Dogs, which again is out this January from Kleft Jaw Press, if you consider that everything exists in the head of the man in the title poem, then you could make a case that this next poem could be something from his memories and could be something from him when he was a young man. And I just want to say thank you one more time to Kleft Jaw, Beyond Baroque, Richard, everybody has just been great. We have got several copies of Ryder Collins' compulsory poetry collection, I Am Hopscotch Without Pop, for sale, and I really, really hope people will pick one up. Thank you so much. This is Fringe Sector. In the lobby bathroom of a building that can slip back in time and return free of clammy, polite lost souls, he combs his hair under the guise of a careful man. He shoos away a fly that's had more birthdays than 2 dead presidents fighting to get through the doorway of a barbaric plastic surgeon. Defiant to the end, he swings bloody, doomed punches like there are a couple of axes with opportunities to go wherever they please. He does this every time he stumbles after staring into the mirror for too long. This is the best place in town to go to bed. This is paradise on the right floor. Just gotta dodge the guy who wants to see someone crash all the way back down to the bottom. Find the keys inside a jacket that's not his, and get inside to praise how his poisonous judgment and dishonest heart will keep the lights on for at least another week. Live here, and it's blissfully possible to open the door, walk inside, and find someone in his bed who is only going to put up with him until she finds another place to go. A few years of legitimate education and a lot of years of education in the fringe sector is what's brought him here. And he loves it. It's a good place to live. And he would be honored to find out that it's also a great place to die. And it's a long march up all of those unsteady stairs. And he's going to sing the same 3 lines from that Jerry Lee Lewis song until he gets to the top. And he's going to throw coins at random to all the believers of abstract lost causes that make up this gang of starving pet store caretakers. And he's going to stay awake for fear of missing out on even a second of glorious possibility. Thank you so much. We got Lindsay Thomas up next.